So when we work with the body structure, you can work kind of ad hoc in the sense that, you know, people have got a shoulder problem, a knee problem, an ankle problem, and you can kind of use a lot of what's in this course to fix that problem. But the way the course is really structured, it doesn't sort of reflect, like in terms of what you learn, it doesn't really reflect the order that you'd work on someone clinically in order to get the best result. And we're always like drawn into people's, you know, pain and suffering, and then we kind of go, oh, okay, we'll try and fix this. But it won't always work that well if you don't structure how you work with people effectively with structure. So unless people have like super major damage, if you approach it the way I'm going to sort of outlay now, you'll get a much better result than if you just kind of work on the symptoms of people's structure. Because, as you know, the body structure is all integrated, and where you get a problem might not really be the cause. So as soon as you get a restriction somewhere in the body, something else will probably become hypermobile, and the hypermobile area is likely to be where the problem manifests, not in the restricted area. And so then, you know, you try and fix the hypermobile area that's taking the brunt of the restricted area, and then you might alleviate it, but it will come back because you haven't looked at the body from a holistic perspective structurally. And then while you're working structurally, all sorts of other things come up. And the problem with kinesiology is it's super diverse in terms of where things can go. And you can just end up here or there, and you balance one thing and balance another thing, and you think it's the cause, but if you don't contain it within an understanding of the metastructure of how things hold together, then you'll only get so far with it. So when someone presents with, you know, significant structural problems that you want to nail and completely eradicate, the first thing you really need to do I'm obviously not going to talk about accurate indicator muscle and pre-checks, but in terms of strategies of what you'd implement, the first thing you would do would be survival switching or deep survival switching, depending. And so that's the CPE course. So that's at the end of this year. Like there's only going to be 40 places for that, and usually it fills up and some people don't get in. So if you're interested in doing it, respond to the email quickly, otherwise you'll miss out and you'll have to wait 2 years, because we can only fit so many people in the room, and we only run it every 2 years.
When's that email likely to go out?
But what we have to do first, we have to shift you all from easy pay to easy debit. So we're getting rid of easy pay, which is because it has so many problems. Like it integrated with our database, like it just plugged straight in, but it's crap. It doesn't work, and we're just like putting out fires with payments not going through and things like that constantly, and it's just too crazy. So we're going to move you all from the whole college from easy pay to easy debit. Once that's, because we don't want to levy new receipts on easy pay, we want to put them all on easy debit. So once that's done, then we'll put out the booking confirmation for the Neurophys 2 and 3. So I think we're going to give out forms today, and so everyone can fill out a form. And you know, until the last person signed up on easy debit, that'll delay the neurophys going out, just because we don't want to put it on easy pay. And so if you're on easy pay, we don't want to put more money onto it. We want to put it on the other one. Does that make sense?
Is neurophase 2 and 3 the same as CPE? Continual professional education.
Continual professional education. So it's not part of the diploma, it's an extra course.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's survival switching is taught in the
That's where survival switching and deep survival switching is taught, yeah. And you know, you've got the neurological survival balance from KF, what was it? From NPhys 1, which works quite well, but that works better. And you've got just more background to dig deeper and clear out more neurological confusion. All right, so we're going to give out those forms today. So if everyone could fill out those forms, and we can move you from easy pay to easy debit, then we'll get there quicker for the neurophys 2 and 3 bookings.
So Guy, will you tell us, like, I don't know, like dates to put in, like days that you're going to debit?
You'll have to talk to Kiki probably. Do you know where Kiki?
Talk to the group about it.
Yeah, maybe Kiki can talk to you. It'll be fun for her. Yeah, okay. All right, so survival switching, deep survival switching. So what that'll do is it'll help clear up neurological confusion, and it'll create a platform for the body to organise itself at a neuromuscular level. Because if your brain's confused, everything's confused, your physiology and your structure. So it just clears all the background confusion. And then when you're actually doing the muscle testing and exploring the body, you're going to get accurate information coming out of the person's muscles, much more than if you just did the pre-checks. And so the second thing is to get the energetics of the body aligned. So we want, the soul and spirit to be aligned down the axis of the person. And so that comes into bioharmonics. And really, bioharmonics is the crux of the whole diploma. It basically holds all the theories together. It's in the last semester because you've got all the background knowledge to pull it all together. So in the bioharmonics, there's the Dantian balance. And that basically centers the person spiritually at 3 points, like the lower Dantian, the middle Dantian, the upper Dantian. So you get these 3 points, sort of with the spiritual aspects of the body just honing in to those points. And then the second part is the axial energies, axial balance. So that's looking at, the microcosmic orbit and the celestial circuit and things like that. And they're sort of like electrical, the kundalini. And so they're looking like energy circuits that move straight up and down the spinal axis. So that's first, that's second. And so then the energetics and the spirit are all aligned with the physical. And if they're not aligned with the physical, and then you're trying to line the spine up, it doesn't really work properly. Can you see how that might be problematic? So if the spirit's sort of like out there, flapping in the wind, and the body's over here, and you're trying to line the spine up, it's not going to line up very well. It'll not stay very stable because the spirit hasn't anchored in the body correctly. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so once you've done that, then there's the structural paradigm, which is your last course for the block 4. And so the structural paradigm, which kind of dovetails with the cranial kinesiology as well. So the cranial kinesiology has like isolated applications, but it also has, it also interplays while you're doing the bioharmonics, and it also interplays while you're doing the structural paradigm. So the principles of the the cranial kinesiology, sort of slide into here and support it. And then a lot of the corrections with the bioharmonics and the structural paradigm relate back to the cranial kinesiology as well, what you learn there. So that's sort of semi-integrated into it. And then the structural paradigm deals with the axial skeleton. Which includes, the cranium, the spine, and the pelvis. So you're clearing neurological confusion. You're establishing an energetic core, and then an energetic core axis, and then you're establishing a structural axis. Does that make sense? And then you've got the appendicular skeleton, which is everything other than the axial skeleton. So the axial skeleton is like the cranium and the spine and the pelvis. And then you've got everything hanging off it, like the arms and the legs and what have you. So that basically is STF3, Structural Fundamentals 3. So Structural Fundamentals 3 deals with everything else. Now, and so feeding into the Structural Fundamentals 3, is everything that you've learned in, structurally in the Kinesiology Foundation program, like, muscles and reactives and things. And then you have SDF1 and SDF2 plugging into SDF3. So SDF3 kind of organises all of that to deal with each piece of structure in the body. And so when you approach, so someone might come in with a knee problem and you go, I could just go to SDF3, work with what I've learned here and address the knee problem. But the knee is often a symptom of something else. So the knees often go out over time, they wear down because other things aren't moving properly, and you haven't dealt with the other things that aren't moving properly. Does that make sense? And so it might hold the knee together for a while, but it's likely to come back because there's other things that the client isn't noticing that are causing the knee to go out. But if you've done all of this, you've done all their core axis, and it's very unlikely. So when people have twisted pelvis or a tilted pelvis, the pelvis is doing something weird, that will throw out the hips and the knees and the feet. And you really have to do all of this to be able to align the pelvis, for instance. So it's probably a great idea to write that down, I'll just take a photo of it as well and I'll post it. How do you feel about that? Does it feel daunting or does it feel... Because the other thing is you've got to think about is you've got to manage... I'm going to put my phone... There it is. Don't worry, I'll do it. The other thing you need to think about is you've got to manage the client in all of that. So that they come in for a knee problem, they go, why the hell haven't you looked at my knee yet? Do you know what I mean? Why the hell haven't you looked at my knee yet? And so they just think you're trying to take money off them or something. But you're actually trying to fix them or help them fix themselves in a way where it's not going to come back. And they're not going to be in that sort of, classic chiropractor dynamic where you come back every fortnight or something for the rest of your life. So yeah, so that's like a big picture view of where you need to go with structure, and then you have to be able to like communicate with people in a way where they're, you know, up for it, the journey. Because it might take, you know, it might take me maybe 2 sessions to get through that, but it might take you 5 now to do it properly. And then, you know, as you're doing things, it can take you into all sorts of other weird areas as you're going, but you have to keep this directive. Because what happens with a lot of kinesiologists is they can't hold the big picture view, and they just go, oh, and they go off here and they go off there, and they forget about that structure. And there'll be all sorts of different diversions, because that's the nature of kinesiology, but you still have to hold that directive and follow through with that directive in order to get the result. And so with some clients, as you're following all those diversions, yeah, you kind of may, oh, I fixed that, they must be fixed now, but they're not unless you've done all of that.